Hi, Denise, can you hear?
Are they talking?
Clerks, it looks like we have quorum, hey?
Yes, I can do a sound check with Councillor Bly.
Hi there, Tino.
Okay. And yes, Mary, you do have quorum, so anytime you want to take it over.
And Tina, it's Councillor DiGenova. I'm here on the phone just for a while, and then I'll log on as soon as I can.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. Just let me check to make sure we're ready to go, Mayor Stewart.
Okay.
Anytime you're ready, Mayor Stewart.
Thanks. So I call this public hearing of Tuesday, October 6th to order. Just want to make sure, Council, that you have your videos on so we can maintain quorum. This meeting is convened by electronic means under the order of the Minister of Public Safety, Ministerial Order M192, and we're all participating by phone, and as chair of this meeting, so am I. If my connection is lost during any portion of this meeting, we'll recess until the meeting, until the connection is restored. Same with council. If you need help, the contact information has been circulated to you. Please let the clerk know if you're going to leave the meeting for any reason, just so we can maintain quorum. And this meeting will continue with audio only, and you can listen in by via the live stream or the YouTube link, which is tweeted out at Van City Clerk and on the live stream as well. Presentations, amendments, and vote results would be projected to viewers when available. And lastly, we have speakers who will be providing comments to council by phone, and a moderator will assist in patching speakers through when their turn comes up. Clerk, can I have the roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor Stewart in the chair. Councillor Carr.
Here.
Councillor DiGenova.
Present.
Councillor Fry.
Here.
Councillor Swanson.
Here.
Councillor Dominato. Councillor Bly.
Present.
Councillor Kirby-Yung. The meeting has quorum, Mayor Stewart.
Great. Thanks so much. So Of course, we want to acknowledge we're on the traditional unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people, and thank them for their generosity to all who live on their lands. I also want to take a moment to recognize the staff and the great work that they do in the city, especially during COVID-19. Thanks so much for all your work. In terms of tonight, speakers will have 5 minutes to make their comments and should limit their comments to the merits of the report being considered. You should also indicate if you're speaking whether you support or oppose the recommendation, and if you are a resident of Vancouver and Council, we have that listed on the speaker sheet, but I'll be asking those speakers who participate without formally registering. Speakers may only speak once and should follow along on Twitter for updates so they don't miss their turn to speak, and any comments can be submitted in writing to publichearing@vancouver.ca, publichearing@vancouver.ca. Speakers who pre-register their presentations are reminded that the public live feed has a slight 20-second delay, and to navigate through your slides, please say next. This is a quasi-judicial body. It means that Council is only to consider the merits of the rezoning application or heritage designation. Council members may ask clarifying questions from speakers, including the applicant, or technical advice from staff, but should save debate for after the close of speakers. And after we've closed the speakers list, we can approve in principle the application, refuse the application, or defer the application for further consideration. So our first item tonight is a CD1 text amendment 380390 West 8th Avenue, and the clerk will read the application summary of correspondence.
This is an
point of order. Yeah, my point of order is that I'll have to declare, due to abundance of caution, because I have a restaurant just down the street at 151 East 8th Avenue, that I will be recusing myself due to my interests.
Mr. Mayor, you might be on mute.
Whoops. That was an awesome speech I just gave. So, Councillor Wiebe, thank you so much for the declaration. What we'll do is make sure the clerk contacts you after we finish this item so you can participate in the rest of the meeting, and we'll turn it over to the clerk for the to read through the application description and the correspondence.
This is an application by JTA Development Consultants to amend CD1 district to increase the total maximum.
This is the clerk here, Mayor Stewart.
Maybe you're on mute, clerks.
Can you hear us? Can Council hear us?
Clerks.
Norm, did you want to
Anybody there?
come up here?
Can you hear you?
Oh, Council Chambers muted, David.
The clerk's got it. There you go. I hear something now from the
Okay,
clerks.
sorry about that. This is
That's
an
okay.
application by JTA Development Consultants to amend CD1 district to increase the total maximum permitted FSR from 1.1 to 1.17 to allow for mezzanines within existing double height spaces and to increase the limit for restaurant Class 1 use from 65 square meter to 150 square meter. This item has received no correspondence since being referred to public hearing, and this represents all correspondence received up till approximately 4 p.m. today.
Great. Thank you so much. So, if there are any speakers for this item and wish to speak to Council, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 34986# to get on the list. And the number, I'll repeat it lots through the night, and the number will be tweeted out and available on the live stream. We have Austin Norrie, the rezoning planner, here on the phone to present the application. Just wondering, since we have no speakers, if if we might waive the presentation. Staff, does anybody want to see this presentation? Sorry, council. Okay, so staff, I think we're okay with waiving the application. Is there anything that you'd like to say to us before we move to the applicant team?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant in here to speak to the application?
James Todd, JTA Development Consultants. I am here.
Okay,
but
thanks.
we don't have any comments to add to the application.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask now if council has any questions to staff or the applicants, and if you do, please put yourself on the list. Again, this is the only chance you'll have to ask questions to the applicant. I'm just looking at the queue. I don't see anybody on the queue. Okay, great. We're going to hear from the public. I understand, clerks, there's nobody registered, so I'm going to ask if there's any first call, I guess, if there are any people who wish to speak to this item, please call 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 34986 hashtag to get on the list before the close of the speakers list. The number's on Twitter and available on the live stream. So clerks, is there anybody on the line or in the chambers to speak to this item?
Mayor Stewart, this is the clerk here. There is no one in the chamber and no one on the line.
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to make a second call now for anybody who wishes to speak to this item. 1-833-353-8610 is the number to call in with participant code 34986 hashtag to get on the speakers list. And check with you again, clerks, if there's anybody on the line.
Mayor Stewart, we are still not seeing anyone on the line.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm going to call a third time, and then we'll take a 5-minute break, council, just to give people a chance. So if anybody wants to speak to this item, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, participant code 3498 hashtag to get on the list. And clerks, let's take a 5-minute timeout just to have give folks a chance. It's 6:12 now, so let's come back at about 6:17. I just check with the clerks. Do we have anybody else on the line?
This is the clerk here, Mayor Stewart, and there is no one on the line and no one on the third floor in the chamber.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. So that's the third and final call. Seeing that there are no additional speakers, the speakers list is now closed. And I'm just going to flip here to script A. Right. So as few or no public comments were received on this item after 5 p.m. today, we're going to close the receipt of public comments and move on to hearing closing comments. So I'm going to ask, does the applicant have any closing comments?
No closing comments. Thanks for the opportunity.
No problem. Does staff have any closing comments?
Staff have no closing comments. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Does council have any questions for staff? If so, put yourself on the list, please. I don't see anybody on the list, so we'll make a decision now. Can we have a mover for the recommendation, please?
So moved, Councilor Blythe.
Thank you,
Second, Councilor Kirby-Hunt.
Thanks very much. Great. And is there anybody who would like to debate this item? I don't see anybody on the queue, so I'm going to call a vote on this. Clerks could load up the voting. Can you mark Councillor Wiebe absent, please, or declare conflict of interest, please, clerks? And Councillor Dejanova, we need a vote from you. There we go. Okay, if the clerks, the voting's completed, if the clerks could pull the result up on the screen, and that has passed unanimously, Council. So thank you very much for that to staff and the applicant. Now we're going to move on to item 2. Item 2 is a rezoning of West 49th Avenue, and we'll have the clerk read the application of summary and correspondence.
This is an application by Ningwa Industrial Corp. To rezone 564570 West 49th Avenue from RS1 District to CD1 District to permit the development of a 4-story residential building with a partial 5th floor amenity space and 31 strata residential units. A height of 51 feet to the top of the roof parapet and a height of 60 feet to the top of the amenity space and an FSR of 1.95 are proposed. Council has received no correspondence on this application since referral to public hearing, and this represents all correspondence received up till about 4 p.m. today.
Thanks very much. Council, there are no speakers to this item, just so you know. We have Amy McDonald here from the Rezoning Center to speak with us, but I'm just wondering if any councillors would like to see the presentation. I don't hear anybody, so staff, Ms. McDonald, do you have anything to say before we move on to hear from the applicant?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Amy McDonald from the Rezoning Center. Staff have prepared a presentation this evening, but with no speakers signed up and no correspondence received, we are able to waive the presentation. Great.
Okay. Thanks very much. The applicant here to speak to the application.
This is Wayne Fougere. I'm the architect for this project, and I'm here to speak if you want to hear from me, but I have nothing to say. I'll wait for questions.
Okay, thanks. So maybe we'll move to questions. Are there any, if there's any questions to staff or the applicant, this is the time to ask council, especially if you want questions to the applicant. I don't see anybody on the questioning list. So now we'll move to hear from the public. And if there are any speakers for this item who wish to speak to council, this will be my first call, please call toll-free 1-833-353-8610, followed by code 34986 hashtag to get on the list. And the number's on Twitter and on the live stream. On the first call, clerks, is there anybody in chambers or on the line to speak to this item?
Mayor Stewart, no one in the chamber and no one on the line at the moment.
Okay, I'm going to call a second time then for speakers. The number to call is 1-833-353-8610, followed by code 34986 hashtag to get on the list. So that's the second call. And clerks, has anybody joined us on the line?
No one in the chamber, Mayor Stewart, and no one on the line.
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to make my third call, and then council will take a 5-minute pause just to give people a chance to phone in. The number to call is 1-833-353-8610, code 34986, hashtag to get on the list. And with that, I will, it's 6:22, council. We'll come back at 6:27 to see if there's any speakers to this item. Thanks very much, and we'll see you in 5 minutes. Is there anybody in the chamber or on the line to speak to this?
Mayor Stewart, it's the clerk here, and there is no one in the chamber and no one on the line.
Okay, great. So since we'll close the speakers list then, as no or a few public comments received after 5 p.m. today, we're going to close the receipt of public comments and move on to hearing closing comments, asking further questions of staff, and making a decision. I just ask the applicant, do you have any closing comments?
I have no closing comments.
Thanks very much. Staff have any closing comments?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Staff have no closing comments.
Okay, any questions to staff? And please put yourself on the list if you have questions to staff. Currently don't see anybody. Okay, so do we have a mover for the recommendation?
Councilor Kirby, yes.
Thank you. Seconder?
Councilor Bly.
Thank you, Councillor Bly. And if we have any debate, I'll move this over to the main queue. Anybody? Councillor Swanson, you have debate. Go ahead, up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm still not convinced that the Kembe plan is right, and I don't like voting for so many condos when there's virtually no low-income housing in the whole neighborhood. I think it's too exclusive, so I'll be voting against it.
Okay. Councillor Hardwick.
I'm still waiting for the data to be persuaded that these continued policies are the right direction for the city, so I will not be supporting this application.
And again, councillors, we're just voting on the specific project. Just to remind you that to judge the project by its own merits, even though it's under a particular policy. Thanks very much. Okay, I don't see anybody else on the list, so we'll call a vote on this one. Councillor DeGenova. Councillor DeGenova? Clerks, do you see Councillor DeGenova on the queue?
Mayor Stewart is the clerk here, and I am not seeing Councillor DeGenova on the WebEx. We can, if you can pause a moment, we can try to contact her.
Okay. Why don't we do that? Council, we'll just take a minute and pause in the middle of the vote to contact Councillor DeGenova. Thanks very much. Council, I see now Councillor DeGenova has voted, so that has passed with Councillor Swanson in opposition. Okay, thanks so much, and we're moving on to the third item. Just give me a second here. This is the rezoning of 720 Beatty Street and 701 Expo Boulevard, and the clerk will now read the application and summary of correspondence received.
This is an application by West Bank Corp. To rezone 720 Beatty Street from Downtown District and 701 Expo Boulevard from BC Place Expo District to Comprehensive Development District, to permit the development of a 17-story office building and a 6-story commercial building. The proposed height of the office building facing Beatty Street is 208 feet, and that of the commercial building facing Georgia Street is 91.2 feet. An FSR of 8.96 is proposed. Since being referred to public hearing, Council has received five pieces of correspondence in support of the application. This represents all correspondence received up till 4 p.m. today.
Great. Thank you so much. Council, we do have a number of speakers on the list. Sorry, just making sure. Yeah, not on mute. Okay. So first, though, if there are any speakers to this item who wish to speak, please call 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 34986 hashtag to get on the list. And the phone numbers on Twitter and on the live stream. We have Nick Danford from the Rezoning Center, and there are speakers to this, so perhaps we're best to see the presentation. I believe there's 19 slides, so Mr. Danford, if you wanted to go ahead.
Sure. Great. Mayor Stewart, can you see my screen?
I'm just looking now. I do like to check the public screen just to make sure people can see it at home, and I can. Yeah.
Great. Excellent. So good evening, Mayor and Council. As mentioned, my name is Nick Danford, and I'm the rezoning planner for this application. So the rezoning site is located at the east end of the CBD, right at the intersection of Beatty Street and West Georgia, right beside BC Place Stadium. Located in the city's entertainment precinct, it's just steps away from many amenities, including hotels, restaurants, and retail businesses. The Stadium Chinatown SkyTrain station is just a block away, and the site is also located directly adjacent the eastbound entrance to the Georgia Viaduct, and once replaced, the ramp that will connect West Georgia Street down to Pacific Boulevard. Located in the downtown, the site is surrounded by a variety of land uses. Across Beatty Street is a series of hotels, and as you can see, there are many surrounding sites that have been rezoned to a unique CD1, many of which include residential uses. Buildings surrounding the site range from the 4-story Heritage Building just to the south on Beatty Street to a 32-story residential building just across West Georgia. The western portion of the site houses a 2-story industrial building containing the energy steam plant. The steam plant was installed in the building in the 1960s in order to address pollution and inefficiencies involved with heating downtown buildings. This privately owned utility, owned by Creative Energy, has an underground pipe network that extends over 14 kilometers and serves over 200 buildings in the downtown. The east portion of the site currently sits 11 meters below the grade of the western portion, and as you can see, is an open-air parking lot. The site is subject to a variety of enabling policies, including the rezoning policy for the CBD and CBD shoulder, which seeks to increase job-generating space in the CBD. The eastern portion of the site is located in the False Creek North ODP. And finally, because of the proposed increase in floor area of the project, it is subject to the rezoning policy for large sustainable sites. So the application proposes a 17-story office building and a 6-story entertainment pavilion, totaling just over 663,000 square feet. The office building fronting Beatty Street is proposed to reach a height of 208 feet and will also contain portions of the upgraded energy plant. The smaller entertainment pavilion facing West Georgia Street is proposed to be 95 feet in height and contain entertainment-type uses as well as retail and food and beverage. The proposal includes a site assembly of 2 legal lots, while a portion of the site, labeled here as Concord Option Lands, located at the rear of 780 and 786 Beatty Street, is proposed to be subdivided from the rezoning site and will retain its existing zoning in order to enable access to 780 and 786 Beatty. A community open house took place in March of 2019, where 53 members of the public attended. Folks supported the proposal's quality building design, the public realm features, and the upgrade to the energy facility, while some did feel that the building was too large and were not supportive of the proposed design. So due to the large 338-foot frontage on Beatty Street, the proposed office building's height and breadth risk presenting a strong physical imposition onto the public realm of Beatty Street. However, the unique S shape of the floor plan provides a built form that allows for visual relief to the overall form and height of the building. The site does fall within 3 view corridors that restrict the height of the building. The view cone from the Canby Street Bridge shown here is marginally impacted. The proposed building does have appurtenances on portions of the roof which will project into the view cone up to 22 feet, outlined here in yellow. Taking into account the existing intrusions into the view cone of the armature of BC Place, staff recommend that these proposed incursions be accepted. Staff support the complex and visually interesting form and massing of the entertainment pavilion. The siting of the building adjacent to the large public open space allows for eyes on the public space and the uses proposed for the building align with the entertainment precinct vision. The application proposes an extensive public realm. The plaza deck is proposed to align with the concourse of BC Place and the current Georgia Viaduct and future ramp conditions. The public realm includes a lot of natural landscape features, including 24 new on-site trees and 19 new street trees, and will provide for better access to the stadium. When events take place at BC Place, several thousand people traverse a portion of the rezoning site in order to exit the stadium. This connection is critical in ensuring safe stadium egress. Staff have concluded that the combination of the proposed breezeway, wider sidewalks, and creation of the substantial plaza will provide sufficient accommodation of pedestrian egress from the stadium. Vehicular access to the site is provided from both Beatty Street and Expo Boulevard, while loading is provided from Expo. Though both Beatty and Expo are cycling routes, this access strategy is expected to provide greater redundancy than a single access point and be more legible for users. The proposal includes 175 vehicular parking spaces. Additionally, there's plenty of bicycle parking spaces that will be housed in the parking structure along with end-of-trip facilities. A public bike share station is also required on the site and is being secured through rezoning conditions. Finally, the rezoning policy for large sustainable sites requires rezoning applications to commit to strategies and outcomes in areas such as sustainable design, green mobility, rainwater management, and low carbon energy supply. This proposal allows for a number of measures in achieving these sustainability goals, including LEED Gold certification of the building, incorporation of a sustainable food system plan, and zero waste planning, all of which would be detailed through the development permit stage. This site would generate approximately $19 million in public benefit, including DCLs, public art, and commercial linkage contributions. As part of the Restart Smart Vancouver initiative, this project will contribute approximately 2,000 construction jobs during the initiative's recovery phase. Staff have reviewed the application and conclude that the height, density, and land uses are consistent with the rezoning policy for the CBD and CBD shoulder and respond to the intent of the False Creek North ODP of the site. If approved, the project will not only contribute to increased job space and to advancing the city's economic development objectives, but also help in achieving the regional entertainment district envisioned under the Northeast False Creek Plan. Both staff and the applicant are available for questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your time today and the presentation. And we'll ask if the applicant team is here to speak to the application.
Hello, this is Kieran McConnell from Creative Energy. I'm here to speak on behalf of the applicant.
Yes, I can hear you fine. Please go ahead.
Okay, and I'm going to share a brief presentation as well, if that's all right.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Just checking here. Yes, we can. And I'm just checking on the, yep, and it's just coming up on the public screen as well. Yeah, please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, so thank you. Again, this is Kieran McConnell from Creative Energy speaking on behalf of the applicant. I'm going to talk about Creative Energy in this site. So District Energy is the centralized generation and distribution of thermal energy to a group of buildings within a neighborhood. Economies of scale enable district energy companies to provide cost-effective, low-carbon technologies that result in extraordinary environmental performance. Creative Energy owns and operates one of the largest district energy systems in North America. Since 1968, we've been delivering outstanding customer service with a 99.99% reliability record. Our plant at 720 Beatty and 701 Expo provides heat and hot water to over 215 buildings across more than 45 million square feet of connected real estate in downtown Vancouver and Northeast Falls Creek. Some of our customers include St. Paul's Hospital, BC Place, Rogers Arena, the Vancouver Central Library, and the Vancouver Convention Center. For the last 6 years, all our efforts have been spent working with the City of Vancouver, the province, and the federal government to effect a fuel switch of Vancouver's district energy system. The fact of the matter is that our system today, while relative to other systems has a small footprint, it is still a carbon-based district energy system, and our entire mission has been to effect a transition into a low-carbon system. The city has worked very closely with us in trying to develop options, both from a location and technology perspective, to make this happen. The province has stepped in, as has the federal government, who has approved a grant to effect this fuel switch. The fundamental challenge that the fuel switch has always faced is that the existing customers of Creative Energy have no mandate to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and pay a premium to achieve it. This is exacerbated by an era of historically low natural gas prices. Creative Energy's current plan is to primarily size low carbon capacity to the baseload demand of the energy system, which will achieve the maximum low carbon energy service to serve new developments and achieve a sizable fuel switch with minimum cost impact to existing customers. Westbank's redevelopment of 720 Beatty and 701 Expo gives Creative Energy the opportunity to modernize and revitalize the steam plant, as well as introduce renewable energy to decarbonize the downtown core. The modernization of the plant begins by building a new, higher efficiency plant at the base of BC Place, allowing some of the older existing equipment at 720 Beatty to be decommissioned. In addition, as part of the redevelopment, Creative Energy is going to add new low carbon energy capacity by installing electric boilers below its existing plant. We are fortunate to be living in a province where electricity is almost entirely carbon-free due to the abundance of hydropower. This initiative aligns well with the provincial and municipal efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in Vancouver. In partnership with BC Hydro, Creative Energy will connect into BC Hydro's transmission network at the Mirren substation at Main and Union Street. The energy produced from Creative's plant can meet the zero carbon energy needs of approximately 25 million square feet of floor area of developments in a cost-effective way. This will translate to over 15 years of growth in zero carbon buildings in downtown, the West End, Northeast Falls Creek, and the Falls Creek Flats. This innovative decarbonization effort will avoid annual greenhouse gas emissions by 50,000 tons per year, or about 1.5 million tons over 30 years. The addition of renewable energy capacity at our Beatty plant will help meet the sustainability goals of the City of Vancouver to implement zero carbon buildings in a cost-effective way. Creative Energy and BC Hydro have spent the last year developing the electrification concept and proving out the technical and economic feasibility. As a regulated public utility, we'll be seeking project approval from the BC Utilities Commission in 2021 and expect to construct and commission the electric boiler plant by 2024. As I mentioned, this redevelopment is helping us to install a second steam plant at the adjacent BC Place Stadium in partnership with the BC Pavilion Corporation. This plant will house high-efficiency natural gas boilers, which will provide peaking and backup services. By establishing a plant in a second location, energy security for downtown will be increased. The new equipment will reduce primary energy demands and improve local air quality. This new plant at BC Place, along with the redevelopment of 720 Beatty and 701 Expo, completely revitalizes Expo Boulevard. The redevelopment will enable rainwater harvesting that collects over 7 million liters of water a year, reducing the strain on regional water supply and treatment infrastructure. Finally, I'd say that the redevelopment of 720 Beatty and 701 Expo Boulevard will enable Creative Energy to add significant low-carbon capacity in downtown Vancouver improve reliability and redundancy to the energy supply, and help the province of BC and the City of Vancouver to accelerate their climate energy actions. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your presentation. Now we'll move to questions from council. 1 second, please. Great. So any questions from council to the staff or the applicant? This is your only chance, of course, to ask questions to the applicant. I don't see any questions on the queue, so I'm going to we're going to hear from the public now, and I believe there are 3 folks on the list to speak. I'm just going to pull up the list here, council, with my 5 billion windows that are open, and we have Marco Di Paolo, and I believe he's on the phone. Mr. Di Paolo?
Hello there.
Hi there.
Good
we can
evening,
hear you.
Everyone. Great. So my name is Marco Di Paolo. I'm an executive vice president at Colliers International. Colliers is a commercial real estate consulting management firm here in Vancouver. Also a resident in Vancouver, and I'll be speaking in support of the 720 BD rezoning. My comments in support, I can sort of characterize them in sort of 3 categories. One would be office vacancy. The other would be the availability of office space. The second would be what's in the pipeline for office for downtown Vancouver relative to the demand, and also floor plate size. So with respect to office vacancy, in our business, in our industry, we would deem the market for office landlords and office tenants to be in balance, equally in favor of both parties when the vacancy sits anywhere between 8 and 10%, just to provide a little bit of context. So the current vacancy for office space in downtown Vancouver is 2%. So it's very low. Historically low. It's been historically low for a long time. When we talk about A-class space, so brand new office space similar to what's being proposed at 720 BD, that drops down to an even further lower number of 1%. So we're in a very low vacancy market and in need of more office space. So typically when vacancies get as low as they are, new construction starts to happen. And so what's in the pipeline for more office? There's about 3.8 million square feet of new office under construction that'll deliver between 2021 and 2023. And interestingly, that's the most amount of office space, from our tracking, that has ever been delivered in that kind of period of time in the history of downtown Vancouver. So you would think that that's plenty of office space, and that should take care of it. But in fact, 75% of that office space that is already under construction and underway to be delivered has already been committed to. So we're not really meeting the targets of the amount of office space that we require, and need more inventory to satisfy the demand that is coming into Vancouver. And lastly, I'll talk a little bit about floor plate size. So the majority of the buildings that are delivering that 3.8 million square feet over the next few years have floor plate sizes that are larger than what has been typical for Vancouver, which has been sort of 12,000 square feet. That's sort of been the typical for Vancouver. The new buildings are mostly delivering 15 to 20,000 square foot floor plates. What's being proposed with BD Street is floor plates that are over 30,000 square feet, which are very hard to come by, but highly desirable by a lot of the new companies that are coming to Vancouver nowadays. Probably the best example of that would be Amazon, that committed to take space at the Post. Amazon is well over 1 million square feet now in committed space in Vancouver, but the Post, specifically that development, had floor plate sizes of 30,000 square feet in 2 towers of 500,000 square feet each, which has all been committed to by Amazon. They've created a campus in that area, but a large reason for them taking that development in such a massive way was because of the floor plate size. So we are in considerable need of floor plates that are over 30,000 square feet. And, you know, I think this building certainly is a good contribution to that need.
Thanks so much for your comments. We have Councillor Hardwick questions to you. Councillor Hardwick, please go ahead, up to 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you. I'm interested to know how up-to-date your data is. From what we've been hearing, the pandemic is having a profound impact on office space. Remote work, all of the companies, especially technology companies that I've talked to, and including Amazon, are reducing their office requirements and reconfiguring their space in light of new physical space requirements. So I'd be interested to know how you see the pandemic changing that. Certainly what I've seen in the market is there's lots of office space for rent and for sale currently, and that's anecdotal though, so I'd like to know where your data is coming from, please.
That's an excellent question and certainly very topical today. I don't think anybody absolutely has the answer to that question, but what I can share with you is that you're very correct in that a lot of offices aren't being used today. I mean, our firm is at 20% capacity. Many firms are hovering around that level of capacity, but I think, you know, and there was an article in the Wall Street Journal just recently talking about what CEOs across many industries and across primarily North America thought about where office space was going to go. And I'm not sure what your experience has been from working from home, but the common comment is working from home seems to be something that people can do in a pinch, but it doesn't really provide an effective workplace in the long term. So we're at one end of the spectrum where everybody's been pushed into the pool of, you know, can you work from home? And yes, it works in a pinch, but I don't think it's long-term sustainability. The article in the Wall Street Journal, you know, several CEOs shared those same comments. I'd be happy to share it.
I'd love to see it because I'm also seeing articles describing how tech companies are backing out of $90 million deals, and how we're seeing more and more people moving out of the city into the suburbs, into single-family dwellings so that they can have more space, and the ongoing concern about how long this pandemic is going to last and its ultimate effects on our spatial relationships between where we live and where we work. So yes, please send that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will send that along. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much, and that's it for questions. Appreciate you sharing your comments today, and we're going to move to our second speaker, who is Gerard McDonald.
Great, thank you, Mayor and Council. Am I off mute? Can you hear me?
Absolutely, we can hear you.
Great, so my name is Gerard McDonald. I'm with Reshape Strategies, and we acted as energy and sustainability advisors to Westbank on the project. I live and work in Vancouver, and I'm here. I want to tell you about the sustainability features of the project, why I think it's good for the city, but I have a quick story and actually emailed the speaker register an image to put up. So I wonder if they could find that and put that up. That's great. So this is taken from my home. I live at the far end of Falls Creek. Most days I can look out my window, I can see the plant. You know, it's less than a kilometer away, but back in September when we had all those wildfires, you barely even see, you know, the building downtown. You know, this was an unprecedented event that just happened. 16,000 square kilometers burned. That's twice the amount of the next most extreme wildfire season. Put that in perspective, that's 4,000 times the size of Vancouver, or about half the size of Vancouver Island. And this was fueled by climate change. It was a really sobering thing that happened. You know, during that week we had really thousands of our Vancouverites living outside, breathing that air 24/7. If I turn from my window, I look down, usually see in the courtyard by my building where the daycare where my kids go to school or go to daycare, they're outside playing. That whole week they stayed inside. And it was a really sobering thing for me to kind of grapple with, like, is 1 week of this tolerable, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months not being able to go outside and breathe the air? We're at that catastrophic point now. And I know, climate, the council are climate champions. No one wants this. And most of us are frustrated by the pace of progress. Kieran earlier talked about some of the policy constraints that's not allowing us to really ramp up action. But this is a project that's moving in the right direction. Modernizing this infrastructure is going to set the stage for further decarbonizing downtown. So for those reasons, we're in support of this project. So in addition to the enabling these future carbon reductions, there are immediately sustainability benefits that are able to be delivered immediately. And if we go to the next slide, I'll just recap some of these. They were mentioned earlier in the staff presentation. Nearly 8 million liters of water saved. There are efficiency upgrades that are going to see immediate emissions reductions. The boilers are 50 years old. They're going to be made safer. Similarly, with the seismic condition, the fire resiliency of the building for an energy system that serves 200 buildings downtown, including our only large hospital downtown. I know there's a bit of a lag, so I'm not sure if I'm seeing on the public screen, but if we advance to the next slide, I have some of these numbers recapped. There's also going to be improved air quality. The flues will sit up higher. There'll be low NOx burners, so the area around there will have better air quality. And the office building itself will be near zero emissions. It's actually going to recover heat from the working steam plant to provide low carbon energy to the office building. So thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of the project. That's all I have.
Thanks so much. You do have a question from Councillor Boyle. Go ahead, Councillor Boyle, up to 5 minutes.
Thanks, and I really appreciate you laying out the importance of all of these pieces of I'm just curious to hear from you if there's more that we can be doing related to or expanded upon this project in terms of fuel switch for an electrification or carbon reduction for the downtown core.
My apologies, Councillor Boyle. I wasn't able to hear your question. It's very low volume. I've tried on my end to go as high as I can.
Okay, I will. I can speak up. I'm just curious to hear if there's more that you think we should be looking at related to or sort of expanded upon this project in terms of fuel switch for this energy system downtown.
Well, I think the project is doing the most it can within the current policy reality. I think there's some big ticket items coming up on November 3rd. An existing building policy is probably the most meaningful piece of climate legislation this council is going to face. And Kieran pointed out that's the big gap. Currently, the city has done an excellent job, I would say, leading in North America on addressing emissions from new buildings. Vancouver, unlike every other city on our continent, has no policy for existing buildings. And that's the huge gap we have to address. New York is something 5 years out from now. I'm really hopeful Vancouver comes something with something meaningful. So to answer your question, I would say, yes, it's a great step given the policy reality, but it's really, I wouldn't say a deficiency in the project. It's really a deficiency in existing building policy to address carbon emissions from buildings.
Okay, really appreciate that. Thanks for signing up to speak.
Okay, thank you, and that's it for questions. Really appreciate you calling in today and sharing your thoughts and perspectives. Thank you. And now we're going to move to the final registered speaker, who is Jolie Kaloff. Sorry, Joelle. Okay, great. Thanks very much for calling in. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Joelle Kaloff, and I'm speaking in support of this app. That's okay. And I am speaking in support of this application. This is my neighborhood. This is a fact that I take tremendous pride in. I live in a double condo tower complex called the Max at 928 Beatty Street, and my unit personally overlooks this site from the 22nd floor. And I know that many Vancouver residents enjoy mountain views and water views, but I keep the blinds open year-round just so I can see BC Place and its surrounding buildings lit up at night, because that reminds me that I live in an exciting, growing city. Having spoken to several of my neighbors in the complex about this proposal, I can tell you that I am just one of many local residents who want to see this corridor continue to evolve. The casino is really the last significant project completed, and the corner of Robson and Beatty is next, with a new modern glass-laden high-rise brick facade heritage retention project that is equally exciting. I want to commend Westbank's commitment to its desire to continuously improve this city's public realm. Design like this is essential if we want to maintain our status as a world-class city, especially the partnership with Bjarke Ingels. It's such a critical factor in making that happen. I ask Council to recognize the significance of that caliber of talent wanting to contribute to our city's future skyline. The partnership with Creative Energy, which you just heard about a few minutes earlier, will also demonstrate Vancouver's global vision by creating the largest single GHG emission reduction opportunity in this city. I know that over the past few years, we've seen and heard about major tech companies targeting our city as hubs for their expansion. And it's projects like this that will service those companies and propel our economic growth in the right direction. And I believe this is especially meaningful given the current pandemic. It may be difficult to see beyond our current circumstances, but I believe the mayor and council have to remember that this downturn will pass. And now is your time to start approving projects and development that will be able to accommodate global tech players in the years to come. And I also want to add, the city's sports arena area needs this infusion of capital and infrastructure to attract more residents from the GVR. You know, Edmonton's Ice District is a great example of how far a city can go in reshaping its entertainment offering by anchoring great architecture and new public realm space next to its sports complexes. And I believe it's part of the reason why Edmonton won the race to host the hockey playoff bubble, which Vancouver vigorously applied for. Imagine the economic stimulation we could have experienced if we had been able to provide the resources needed to host the NHL. Honestly, the last time Vancouver experienced anything close to that was during the 2010 Olympics. In closing, Mayor and Council, I believe I speak for many residents in wanting to see our city reinvigorated with a project that provides a platform for growth within the arts, entertainment, sports, and tech industries. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thanks so much for phoning in tonight, and there are no questions for you, but appreciate you sharing your perspectives. Thanks so much. Council, we are, that is the end of the registered speakers, so I'm going to ask if there is anybody else out there that would like to speak to this item, please call 1-833-353-8610, participant code 34986 hashtag to get on the list. That's on Twitter and live stream as well. And I'll ask the clerk on my first call here, is there anybody in the council chambers or on the phone that want to speak to this item?
Mayor Stewart, the clerk here, no one in the chamber, and we have no one on the line.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to call a second time. If there are any other speakers for this item who wants to speak to council, please call 1-833-353-8610, followed by participant code 34986 hashtag to get on the list. And that's on Twitter and on the live stream. Clerks, anybody there?
Mayor Stewart, the clerk here, same answer, no one on the phone and no one in the chamber.
Thanks. I'm going to call a third and final time, and then council will take a 5-minute break just to give people a chance. 1-833-353-8610, followed by code 34986 hashtag to get on the list. And with that, Council, it is 7:06, so I'll bring us back at 7:11 to either hear from speakers or move on to closing comments and making a decision. So thanks, Council, and we'll come back at 7:11. Just want to check with the clerks. Is there anybody in the chambers or on the line?
Mayor Stewart, the clerk here, no one in the chamber, and no one further on the line for this item.
Great. Okay, so since there's no additional speakers, the speakers list is now closed. And as we've had few or no public comments after 5 p.m. today, we're going to close the receipt of public comments and move to hearing closing comments, asking questions. So does the applicant have any closing comments?
No additional comments from the applicant.
Thanks very much. Staff have any closing comments?
No closing comments. Thank you, Mayor Stewart.
Okay, thanks very much. And we do have councillors on the queue for questions. Councillor Weeb, up to 5 minutes.
No, not for questions.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Kirby-Young, up to 5 minutes.
No, I actually put myself on to move the motion. I'm happy to do that now.
If you want to do that now, go ahead. Do we have a seconder?
Seconder.
Councillor Weeb, cool. Okay, and I'll move us over. Is there any debate? Anybody want to say anything about this item?
Yeah, I'll quickly speak.
Okay, let's put you on the list here. Go ahead, up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think that this is architecturally the kind of building we want to see in Vancouver. Really appreciating kind of the way they use the flow, recognizing the district they're in, recognizing also the need for increased tree canopy. Really like the way that they've kind of designed the streetscape. Obviously, it was great to see end-of-trip facilities, reduction in parking, reduction in low carbon, the rain retention. I mean, there's a lot of elements to this building, so it's great to see that our policies are really kind of delivering the buildings we're hoping to see in Vancouver, and I will be voting in support.
Thank you. Councillor Carr. Oh, you're on mute, Councillor Carr. You're on mute, Councillor Carr. Okay. Councillor Carr, you're on mute. There you go. Go ahead, up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's funny. I was off mute, but that was very weird. But I redid it on and off. So thank you very much. I just want to express my support, and particularly around the fact that there is this amazing opportunity to see us reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. I think all the statements that were made by the speakers and the presenters on that were very welcome. Moving our GHGs down at a time of accelerating climate change is incredibly important, and this is a big move for our city in terms of downtown-related emissions. So appreciate very much the effort on this. I know that there's been a concerted effort over many years, and happy to see this moving forward.
Thank you. Council, I have myself on the list. If you'll indulge me, I'll just say, wow, I knew this was a good project, but geez, just seeing the contribution to the city in so many ways, electric boilers, low, if not no emissions, new office space. It's a fantastic contribution, and I can't help hearing about the 2,000 jobs, which is exactly what we need with a 12% unemployment rate and very tough economic times. So thanks very much to the applicant for bringing this forward, and to staff for all their work, and I'll be voting in favor. And with that, Council, we'll call the vote. Here we go. Clerks, if you can pull that up on the screen. We've got a unanimous vote here for this project. So thank you very much to everybody who participated, and we're going to move on to our fourth and final item of this evening, which is the CD1 rezoning on Joyce Street. So if you can have the clerk read the application.
This is an application by Perkins and Will to rezone 5055 Joyce Street from Commercial District to Comprehensive Development District to permit the development of a 35-story mixed-use building with 360 secured rental housing units, including not less than 10 rental units at below market rates and commercial uses at grade. A height of 96.4 meters and an FSR of 16.1 are proposed. Since being referred to public hearing, Council has received 6 pieces of correspondence in support of the application. 4 pieces of correspondence in opposition, and 5 pieces of correspondence related to other aspects of the application. This represents all correspondence received up till 4 p.m. today.
Great, thank you so much. And we do have speakers to this council, so we'll probably take a look at the proposition from Mr. McDougall from the Rezoning Center. But just first, any speakers who want to speak to this, 1-833-353-8610, participant code 34986 hashtag to get on the list. And we'll turn it over to Mr. McDougall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Kent McDougall, and I am the rezoning planner for this rezoning application at 5055 Joyce Street. The application is being considered under the Joyce Collingwood Station Precinct Plan. The site is a single lot, currently zoned C2C commercial. To the north, along Joyce Street, are 4-story mixed-use C2C developments on both sides of the street, followed by a mix of single-family homes and 2-story mixed-use buildings currently zoned RM4N. East of the site, across Joyce Street, is zoned CD1 662, allowing for a strata residential tower at 29 stories with a partial level 30 rooftop amenity, currently under construction. South of the site, along Joyce Street, across Vanessa Avenue, is zone C2C, allowing for up to 4-story mixed-use development, and CD1 352.
Just sorry, can we pause you there? Go ahead, Councillor Swanson.
I'm not seeing a PowerPoint. Should I be?
Yes, I'm just looking at the clerks. All I see is the voting result on the public screen from Beatty Street. I do see it on the WebEx, the presentation. Perhaps the clerks can make sure we pull up the present. There it is.
There it is.
Thank you. Would you like to start again, or are you okay there, Councillor Swanson?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thanks very much. So please continue, Mr. McDougall.
Sure. South of the site along Joyce Street, across Vanessa Avenue, is zone C2C, allowing for up to 4-story mixed-use development, and CD1 352, which is developed with a 16-story mixed-use building. Immediately west is zone CD1 222, and has been redeveloped with 2 14-story mid-rise buildings, 4 4-story apartment buildings, and 2.5-story townhouses. Across Vanessa Avenue is zone CD1 201, and is developed with a 12-story mid-rise building with 3 commercial retail units and 8 townhouses at grade. The subject site, highlighted in red, is situated on the west side of Joyce Street at the corner of Joyce and Vanessa Avenue. The site is currently developed with a 3-story mixed-use commercial building built in the early 90s. The site is located adjacent to the Joyce Collingwood SkyTrain station with access to the Expo line connecting to downtown, as well as the R4 rapid bus route to UBC along 41st Avenue. The station received upgrades recently, including an expansion of the East Station House with increased passenger circulation space and public realm improvements along Vanessa Avenue. Joyce Collingwood is a transit-oriented neighborhood with many local services, parks, and amenities within walking distance scattered in the neighborhood. The site is located within the school catchments of Sir Wilfrid Grenfell Elementary and Windermere Secondary. According to the Vancouver School Board's draft long-range facilities plan, Grenfell Elementary, with an operating capacity of 503 students, had a surplus of 54 spaces in 2017 and a draft forecasted surplus of approximately 166 spaces in 2027. Greater capacity is found at the secondary level, where the capacity utilization was approximately 1,000 of the 1,500 seat capacity in 2017, with a draft forecasted surplus of approximately 495 spaces for 2027. Collingwood Neighborhood House offers a variety of programs and services in the area, including recreational activities, youth programs, childcare, language instruction, and health services. Its main house is located approximately 2 blocks southwest of the site along Joyce Street. The site is also adjacent to the BC Parkway cycle path. In terms of policy context, the site is located within the J1 Joyce Street at Vanessa Avenue sub-area of the Joyce Collingwood Station Precinct Plan. The plan contains long-term policy aimed at supporting the creation of compact, sustainable, transit-oriented community in the vicinity of the Joyce Collingwood Station. The plan groups 3 towers at the station in close proximity to each other. Greater heights are proposed to mark the station and differentiate these new towers from existing mid-rise towers in the area. Ground floor uses are required to be local serving retail and services, and supportable density is to be determined by analysis based on site-specific urban design and public realm performance. The proposal has evolved through the process. An original application was made in September of 2018 for a 31-story mixed-use building with rooftop amenity space on level 32. consisting of strata residential and ground floor commercial retail space. Based on the review, a request by staff was made to relocate the existing lane to the north of the site. The applicant team responded with an updated strata proposal in August of 2019 at a similar height and density. In March of 2020, staff received another proposal revision consisting of a shift in residential tenure to rental with a modest increase in height, which is the application being considered here this evening. This application proposes to rezone the subject site from C2C to CD1 to permit the development of a 35-story mixed-use building with partial level 36 rooftop amenity. The application consists of at-grade commercial space and 360 secured rental residential units, including not less than 10 units secured at below market rates. 36% of the unit mix is family-oriented, having 2 or more bedrooms, meeting the city's family unit requirements. A height of 96.4 meters and an FSR of 16.1 are proposed. Loading and 4 levels of underground parking are accessed from the rear lane to the west of the property, and parking is to be provided as per the parking bylaw. This proposal introduces a new service lane access on the north side of the site. This lane is intended to remove vehicular and service traffic from the existing lane on the south side of the property, directly adjacent to the SkyTrain Guideway. Proposed in its place is a pedestrian-oriented plaza adjacent to the BC Parkway cycle path. This response extends the retail frontage along Joy Street to the southwest along Vanessa Avenue, thereby maximizing public exposure and interaction at the street level. The pedestrian plaza provides multi-directional opportunities for social interaction with outdoor cafe seating and purposefully designed landscaping features offering sound masking and refuge to residents and pedestrians. The overall design concept includes a lightweight open frame that floats off the building facade, containing balconies and forming a vertical garden to provide shading for the building. This application, if approved, would add 360 rental housing units to the city's inventory of rental housing and contribute to the targets set out in the Housing Vancouver strategy. In terms of public consultation, the applicant team hosted a developer-led pre-application open house on July 18th of 2018 with 73 attendees. A city-led open house was hosted by staff on November 15th of 2018 with 47 attendees, and staff received a total of 20 comments through the process. Comments received in support of the proposal generally cited appropriate building height and density, new housing, particularly family units, and building design and aesthetics, while concerns raised through the process generally related to building height and neighborhood fit, increased traffic, congestion, and parking issues, a lack of affordable housing options, and concern over the location. In response to the feedback received regarding height, fit, and location, staff note that the site is identified in the plan as a suitable location for mixed-use development in tower forms with greater heights to mark the station. The proposed tower is one of 3 station marking towers identified in the plan. One of the other tower sites across the street at 5050 Joy Street is a 29-story strata development with a level 30 rooftop amenity currently under construction. The proposed tower height is considered appropriate given the proximity to the SkyTrain station, and it is compatible with the height of the anticipated surrounding buildings within the sub-area. Regarding concerns around increased traffic, safety, and parking, staff note that parking is to be provided in accordance with the parking bylaw, and the site is in close proximity to Joyce Collingwood Station with SkyTrain access and frequent bus service. A transportation demand management plan is required at the development permit stage, which will help reduce vehicular trips to and from the development, providing options for reduced parking requirements and solutions to congestion. As well, this proposal includes traffic and public realm improvements, such as the relocation of the existing lane in order to reduce traffic conflicts and address safety concerns related to anticipated increased volumes that would otherwise exist at the current lane location. In terms of affordability, this table illustrates that with the conversion to rental, the average rents offer improved levels of affordability across the range of unit sizes, particularly when compared with cost of ownership. In terms of public benefits, this proposal includes 100% of the residential floor area as secured rental housing. 360 units are proposed, with at least 10 units secured at below market rates. The proposal also includes a new plaza on the existing lane south of the site, immediately across from Joyce Collingwood Station. For CACs, the site was subject to a CAC evaluation as per the Community Amenity Contributions Policy for rezonings. Based on the proposed residential tenure, no additional CAC is expected. Regarding DCLs, based on September 2020 rates, the estimated value of both DCLs and the utilities DCL is approximately $7.2 million. And based on the public art policy and procedures for rezoned developments, this proposal is anticipated to contribute just over $500,000 to public art. Public art components are determined at the development permit stage, and developers can fulfill the public art commitment through artwork commissioned by the developer or through a contribution to the city's Signature Projects Fund. As part of the Restart Smart Vancouver initiative in response to COVID-19, this project will contribute approximately 1,260 new on-site and off-site construction jobs during the initiative's recovery phase. In conclusion, the proposal is generally consistent with the Joyce Collingwood Station Precinct Plan, and staff support this application subject to the conditions outlined in Appendix B. Staff and the applicant are available to answer questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your presentation. And I'm going to go to council now, just so, sorry, not to council, but we're going to go to the applicant. So is the applicant team here to speak to the application?
Yes, we are, Your Worship.
Yeah, would you like to say something or just answer questions?
No, we're here to respond to any questions or comments that may come forth. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. There's a number of counselors on the queue for questions. And just remember, this is your only chance to ask the applicant questions. So I'll start with Councillor Fry, up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, I guess to start, just a question for our staff. I'm wondering if I'm missing something here, because in the past, most of our secured rentals have involved significant DCL waivers, and this is quite a DCL package that this project is delivering. Are we at $7.2 million? Is there something different in this application, or are we sacrificing something in this particular project that I'm not understanding?
Thanks for the question. No, not in that respect. The applicant did not apply for the DCL waiver in this case, so the DCL rates apply, and the result of that analysis, or based on the rates of September 2020, it does yield $7.2 million in DCLs.
So we can deliver secured market rentals without a DCL waiver. That's good to know. Okay, the question for the applicant then. With the issues of parking, are you concerned at all around the degree to which policy is forcing you to add parking in this project, or do you think it's a worthwhile investment given the proximity to SkyTrain?
If I may respond to that, Councillor. Yes, I think with the proximity to Joyce Street Station, we feel it's a great advantage to actually reevaluate the whole parking situation for this particular project and emphasize more on the bike culture and the number of bikes that we can actually provide underneath. Because we feel from that standpoint, transit-oriented transportation is actually more important than actually cars in this situation, and will help benefit the rental of this project. Thank you.
And do you feel you have the flexibility to navigate some of that during DP?
Yes, we've already had discussions with engineering, and we believe they're actually supportive of our strategy.
Oh, that's really great. Well, thank you, and thank you for this project. Oh, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Fry. And we're on to Councillor Hardwick. Go ahead, Councillor Hardwick.
Yes, thank you. Question for staff. Ultimately, is this proposal a good deal for the city? In waiving the CACs, we're only receiving 10 vacancy controlled out of 360, which is like 2.5% of the units. And I'm assuming foregoing several $1 million in community amenity contributions. And my understanding is 350 of these units are market rental. What does that do to assist the city in meeting its affordable housing goals?
Staff?
Yes, thanks for the question. The proposal at 360 units, 350 at secured market rental, and 10 at the below market rates represent a contribution overall to the rental targets under the Housing Vancouver strategy. In terms of the deal or CAC. CACs aren't waived in the process. What was originally considered and could be considered at a tower site under the plan would be a strata tower, and so there was a conversion to rental. With the conversion to rental, the rents for the area are significantly lower than even the east side averages in this case, and the resulting evaluation for the CACs against the rental proposal with the below market yielded no additional CAC.
Did you compare the average size of units when you looked at the average rents? You said the east side ones, the averages were on par, but are the sizes of the units comparable?
Over to staff whenever you're ready.
Sure, I'll defer to my colleague Ryan from Development Planning.
Good evening, Council. This is Ryan Den, Development Planner. The proposal includes varieties of unit size and unit mix that meet the our livability standard.
So that doesn't really answer the question. So just if you're going to use comparables, they need to be real comparables. This one is really a bit of a head scratcher in terms of the financial plan from what I've been able to see in it. I'd really like more of an explanation of what the developer seems like is giving up next to nothing to receive the subsidy from the city. And if the Housing Vancouver targets are the justification, that's what you're saying, is that the Housing Vancouver targets are the justification for this deal?
Thanks for the question. No, it's the conversion from strata to rental.
Councillor
this is Teresa O'Donnell. Let me jump in. We were very excited about this project because we saw an opportunity and the developer was willing to forego the strata option and build 100% rental. We were very excited by that. We did run it through a typical pro forma analysis so that we could achieve some below market rental, and that's how we came up with the 10 units. But yes, I think the big contribution to this is gaining those 350 market rental units in this particular neighborhood.
Okay, nothing to be done about it now, but I question the veracity of the deal. Thank you.
Councillor Swanson.
Yeah, I'm kind of bowled over by this. 350 units and only 10 below market. And for this, we're giving the developer, it looks like we're letting the developer make profits from an extra 28 floors because we're increasing the FSR from 3 to 16.1. So we're quintupling the FSR, and all we're getting in return is 10 measly units. It just doesn't seem right to me.
So that's more of a statement, Councillor Swanson. If you want to say that for the debate section, this would be questions to staff or the applicant.
Yeah, well, the question would be, how can we justify more than quintupling the FSR and only getting 10 measly below market units, especially when the units on top are going to be renting quite pricily because they'll have a view.
Okay. So you have a question for staff or the applicant, Councillor Swanson?
Yeah, how can we justify that?
It's a bit philosophical, but if that's directed to staff, I'll turn it to.
Yeah, it is directed to staff.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the question. Again, I think for what's being proposed and the policy guidance for the area, there are 3 tower sites in the Joyce Collingwood area. This is the second. Originally, what was proposed was the 31-story strata building. So it's really the conversion of the strata, a market strata, to an all rental proposal. The rents in the area, on average, are lower than the east side again. For instance, a 3-bedroom is about $2,100 per month. And so that conversion to rental is really where the bulk of the deal is.
Okay, thank you. That's good. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Dominato?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And a question to our staff. Just I want to get some clarification around the 10 units below market, and just was that in the discussions around the conversion from strata to rental, was it city staff that suggested that we try to achieve some below market rental as part of that shift, or was it the applicant that came to the city and made that suggestion? I'm just curious about the origins of it and how we came to that.
Thank you, Councillor Dominato. This is Teresa Dalton. This was a suggestion by staff. The applicant was certainly willing to engage in those negotiations. It was a rather heated CAC pro forma analysis, and in the end, we were able to secure these additional units.
Okay. Okay, that's the question. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Boyle.
Thank you. And to these questions of public benefit, I just want to clarify, this is now what's being proposed before us is a 100% rental building where the DCLs are not waived, so there's a little over $7 million in DCLs still being proposed, as well as these 10 below market units?
That is correct.
Okay, great. That's all for me for now. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just pursuing the questioning that other councillors have started around the DCL waiver, my understanding is that the applicant, if they choose to apply for the DCL waiver, is restricted to maximum rents as are stated in our DCL bylaw. So in this case, by not applying for the waiver, does that mean that the rental units will rent at whatever the market will bear, not necessarily what the DCL bylaw specifies as a maximum?
Thanks for the question. Yes, the market units would be at market rates.
Right. Okay. Whatever the market bears.
That's correct.
Great. Okay. And historically, at least over the last 11 years, I guess, there was a real desire to move just forward with getting market rental as opposed to strata development. Is that an accurate description of sort of over the last decade or so that's where we've been moving towards as a city?
Michael Naylor, Assistant Director of Rezoning, and yes, that is the correct observation. We have been moving towards rental from strata over the last 10 years. Quite a few policy development around housing has been for rental housing.
Great. Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Councillor Hardwick, you've still got a minute and 15 seconds left.
I'll make it quick. The rental numbers for CMHC come out in October. I just would like to know, will staff be looking at the new rental numbers, vacancy numbers, as soon as they come out? Are they prepared for that and potentially adjusting policy as a result? But first of all, are you waiting for the numbers from CMHC on changes in the rental market?
Councillor Hardwick, how does it pertain exactly to this?
Well, it does relate to this.
Okay.
Because we're making a decision right now in the month where these numbers are being compiled.
Okay.
It could be a yes/no question.
Okay, staff, are you looking at the CMHC numbers?
Yes, these rates are based on the 2020 CMHC numbers.
Well, they're just being compiled now in October.
They come out monthly.
Well, the annual ones will be out this month. We've been waiting, or they're compiled this month. I'll follow up on this, but I think it does beg the question of changes in the rental situation. Thank you.
Councillor Fry, up to another 3 minutes.
Yeah, and I hopefully won't take that long. I just apologies. I'm just want to clarify something based on Councilor Carr's comments earlier. In fact, we've only been doing sort of vacancy control and limits on market rents with the MERP program. Am I correct in that assumption? And that in the past we've been doing DCL waivers for just market rental in general prior to MERP.
Thanks for the question. We'd like to defer to our colleague Annie Mobilis in the Housing Development Group.
Thanks, Kent. It's Annie Mobilis, Senior Housing Planner. We do have examples of rental projects where there is some CAC generated that we've translated into the delivery of some percentage of affordable units. So that's outside of the MERP pilot that you're familiar with. So that does happen, and this would be an example of that. In the pro forma analysis for this project, the CAC that was possible was translated into the 10 units that you see outlined in the planning report.
Right. So sorry, no, I was specifically referring to the DCL waivers on like the Rental 100, the STIR type programs where we were providing DCL waivers or allowing DCL waivers for secured market rental that had no, they were just market rental, whatever the market would bear, correct?
That is right. Yeah, those projects are able to take the waiver if they choose to. And I think, as some of the other staff have pointed out, I think in this instance, the average rents in this part of the city might not make the DCL waiver as much of an incentive as you might see in other parts of the city. I don't know if that answers your question, I hope.
That does actually, that is helpful, but still very appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor DeGenova. Go ahead, up to 5 minutes. Might be on mute. Councillor DeGenova?
Yes, I wasn't on my device, but on WebEx I was. Thank you.
Go right ahead.
I was actually, I do have some questions, but I'm happy to move the motion also. I'm not sure if that's the appropriate time to do it. I see I'm last on the list. My first question is vacancy control units, and hearing the answers to some of the other councillors' questions. Ms. O'Donnell had said that it was hard to convince the applicant to do this, and I'm just wondering, I mean, was one of the reasons we thought to do this because of Councillor Swanson's motion that passed on vacancy controlled units and sort of working towards trying to find models that work for that? I'm just wondering if that inspired policy at all.
Sorry, I'm a little unclear of your
Well, I'm just wondering, I understood that there was vacancy control involved, and I just think that it's important to sort of see where that policy came from. I'm asking if this is something, if this is one of the first times that we're kind of moving forward and asking someone to try this model with us to try and achieve some of the goals council has set forward in, new affordable housing strategy.
Okay, thanks. Staff?
Sure, that's a great question, Councillor. I appreciate the question. You know, this was an interesting project for us because, of course, the costs of building a building are the same on the east side as they are on the west side, but the rents on this side that can be demanded are much lower. So we really thought this was a great opportunity to test that, and so we're very happy with getting the additional, the 100% rental building and these additional units.
Okay, and these additional units, we're talking about built-in affordability from the start, correct? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay, so it wouldn't be like what we would see with a nonprofit where if they, had ownership, or if the city had, ownership, we'd see it sort of become more affordable over time. With a strata, we might have fee simple or strata fees to pay. These units are entirely separate to that and immediately affordable. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, that's helpful to understand. And just to ask a little bit, and I know, the applicant doesn't have to share their pro forma with us, but I mean, looking in sort of the different areas of town, like for instance, I know affordable home ownership, like you can maybe do it on Boundary. Maybe you won't be able to next week. I don't know. But Is it harder to make this work on the east side than it would be per se on the west side? Is this something that's what I would call a bit of a unicorn of sorts when we look at vacancy controlled units?
If I may respond to that, Councillor DeGenova, I believe that question is directed to the applicant, and then yes, it is difficult to make it work.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate the answers to my questions and just wanted to elaborate off other councillors. Happy to move the motion, Mr. Mayor, but will put myself back on as I see Councillor Weeb's on the queue, if that's the appropriate thing to do.
Councillor Weeb, go ahead, up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, my first question's on the patio. It's a really unique concept. I'm wondering if the new patio guidelines and policies that we passed recently helped allow for this concept to be involved in this building.
Thanks for the question. Could you clarify? Is this
I guess we just passed a bunch of things talking about. Yeah, we changed a lot of the patio regulations, and this building has really unique kind of sustainable patios and kind of living walls and some very unique concepts I haven't seen in patio design before. So I'm just wondering, did our changes to the policy allow for some of this, or is this continuous? We could have done this over the last few years. And do we see, I think in the first design, there seems to be a more significant pronounced patios. And I'm wondering in the final design, were we able to do as much of the living walls we had anticipated in the original designs?
Hi, this is Ryan Din, development planner. The applicant proposed this architectural feature, but under current policy, they still can do it. There's no additional policy
needed, so it's all good to go?
Yes, Councillor Reed, this is Teresa. I don't know that the new policy enabled this, but it certainly sends a very strong message to the development community about what the council would like to see. And so in that regard, I do believe it influences the types of design that we are able to work through with the developers.
And I mean, seeing the sustainability aspects in this building, which are fantastic, I'm wondering, do we take into account that when we're doing our pro forma mix, recognizing that we might not get as much affordability in the unit, but we're going to get the sustainability aspects that a project like this can deliver? And how do we balance those council priorities?
Thanks for the question. With the proposal, they would have to meet the sustainability goals of the green building policy. In terms of pro forma analysis, there is cost surveys that are included in that analysis that would be assessed. So the cost of construction does come in, and all the elements to construct the building are considered in that analysis.
Okay, I'll send my question. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We're on to hear from speakers now, Council. I'll just make sure I double check here. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor. I forgot that we had not heard from you.
That's okay. We got Ron Bruce is a resident and is on the line, I understand. Mr. Bruce, whenever you're ready.
Okay. My name is Ron Bruce. I live in the Collingwood area, and I've gone through some of the things I wanted to speak about. I'm certainly not going to have a tough time. I've given a 5-minute period, and by that time, things are all shut down. So my preference here is probably just to send you my submissions. But if I can draw attention to some of the comments that I've already heard in reference to sustainability, there is a group that has been providing oversight at this particular location. And just give me a second, I'll give you that name. It's called the Integral Group. Are you familiar with it? The Integral Group is providing Okay, the Integral Group is providing oversight. As per my brief that you've already received, BC Ministry of Mines, Energy and Petroleum Resources provides funding and program oversight for the Integral Group. As written by the Integral Group, the project at 5055 Joy Street is 50% residential, lead registration and design and certification is not required. Page 4 of 6. LEED means Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's an internationally recognized green building certification system. The hands-off approach by Westbank and gang doesn't rhyme with green, sustainability, or much else. This statement is a 5-alarm fire.
So,
and if anyone is
sir, you may be talking to a different application. Just to be aware, this is a rental tower on Joyce Street?
505 Joyce Street now.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, this is information in the public domain. I'm not making it up.
Okay.
So if anyone is mesmerized by the architectural drawings of the proposed building, any graphical artist student can superimpose or render these graphic images onto any city map or any street on the street in the globe in an afternoon. Then the marketing spin takes over. Now, there's a lot of situations evolving there at 505, which has a humanitarian content to it. There are 5 different, how should I say, services provided to people who are disadvantaged, not physically. I'll give you the 5. One is the CNIBC, Canadian National Institute for the Blind, for guide dogs. 3 is Vision Loss Rehabilitation BC. 4 is Blind Sports and Recreation. Another one is the YMCA from Greater Vancouver. And there is a Strive Center located there, and the Strive is STRIVE. It's striveliving.ca. I recommend anybody spend some time online and take a look at the services provided by the Strive group. This is pretty much describes every physical and cognitive disadvantaged person in the Renfrew Collingwood area. And I'll go on to explain that in what I submit to you. So 5 minutes is not enough. There are more things to go on here. But what's amazing to me is MLA Adrian Dix, who should be an advocate for all of the humanitarian services provided for the disadvantaged in his community at 5055 Joy Street. I don't think he's on your speakers list.
No, and if we could just stick to this project, sir, that would be great.
505 Joy Street. 505
that's right.
Joy Street. Yeah. No, that's exactly what it's going to address. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to forward the remainder of my presentation to yourself and the rest of the council members. And then they can make a evaluation as to what actually is going on there.
Okay. Actually, if you could send it to public hearing, all one word, at vancouver.ca. Public hearing, all one word, at vancouver.ca.
Mayor Stewart, this is the clerk here. Pardon the interruption.
Sure.
Any submission has to be received before the speakers and comments close to be able to circulate that to council.
That's fine. The one that's already been sent.
Okay.
All council members and the mayor received a copy of that particular brief on Friday, October the 2nd.
Okay, we'll make sure we look for that. And
please do.
Okay.
Please do. These submissions also go not only to the council members, they're also going to the Cullen Commission.
Okay, and we're at the 5 minutes, sir, of your time, and so that would be it for your input. But we don't have any questions, so we just want to thank you so much for calling in this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And now we're going to move on to clerks. I'm not sure if Nathan Davidovich is on the phone, but can we just check with the moderator?
No.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Davidovich. You have up to 5 minutes. Whenever you're ready, please go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Mayor. First of all, you should not announce that public hearing at vancouver.ca. The city clerk has discontinued that email on September the 24th. You can check it with the clerk, and now everybody has to go to the website and all kinds of problems that we older people have with computers. and the city of Vancouver is making it very, very difficult.
Okay, thanks for pointing that out. Yep.
Yeah, I presume the city clerk forgot to tell you that, Mr. Mayor. You know,
I think I'm
that's the
looking at an
problem,
old script.
you
So.
know. Yeah, well, you know. Anyhow, yeah, in the 1980s, I was a member of the Joyce Station Planning Advisory Committee. And since 1986, when the Joyce Station was open, very little affordable housing was built at all the new high-rises. And so now we really should catch up and make any new rezoning provide extra affordable housing to make up for the lack of action by previous councils. But, you know, 10 units is like Councillor Hardwick said, less than 2% or 2%, whatever. The next item, I presume, well, the community amenities. I mean, we were asking for the library from Kingsway and Rupert to move to Joyce Station. The library is 70 years old, and we need the money from the developer, or have the developer give space for the new library, and we have none of that. The bus loop on the south side of the development is too narrow by at least 1 or possibly even 2 meters. So would the developer be in favor of reducing the width of the plaza so we could you know, move the bicycle lane to the plaza and expand the bus loop? Or does he want everybody from his development to walk another 1 or 2 blocks away from the bus loop to catch the bus on Joyce Street somewhere farther south? You know, this is the kind of things that, you know, they are not bringing you these problems. Vanessa Avenue, they changed it to one way. Besides, you know, it's the only major street between Boundy Road and Earls, and they changed part of it to one way, which is going to make it so hard to get around that area. The bus services have been cut since 2008, and many of the bus routes that operate out of Joyce Station have been cut back. There's 5 bus routes. There is no night bus service. The N16 bus was cut back, discontinued in 2016. Now we have the most densely area south of Broadway is Joyce, and we don't have 24/7 bus service. The SkyTrain cannot operate 24/7, can only operate up to a maximum of 20 hours a day. So we have all these problems, and nobody wants to deal with them, you know. And so, you know, I mean, I'm all for development, but you have to give the community what they need, and you know, just you know, no proper public participation. I mean, the rezoning was. I mean, the meeting was over 2 years ago, and the development has changed 3 times since then. And I'm sure you know, Mr. Mayor, that your book is in my hand, edition number 8, Local Government in Canada, and it talks about public participation there in chapter 10. And maybe you should give a copy of the book to all members of council so they'll know how knowledgeable you are about local government in Canada. You know?
And thank you for plugging my book for your last few seconds. We have reached the 5-minute limit, so thank you so much for your time this evening, and I'm glad you got the 10th edition. So thanks. And there are no questions for you. I appreciate you calling in this evening. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Thank you. And Council, we're on to speaker number 3, which is Rick Hurlbut.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Rick Hurlbut, and I'm a resident of Renfrew Heights. It was almost 2 years ago that I attended the open house for 5055 Joyce Street, held at Collingwood Neighborhood House. However, rather than being the community orientation that was advertised, it felt a lot more like a West Bank advanced sales seminar. There were a few others, like myself, from the immediate neighborhood, but the vast majority of attendees had that look of being deep-pocketed investors and not people who would actually live in the building. Frankly, it left me cold, and I couldn't wait for today's council meeting to express my displeasure at yet another high-priced condo development intended for anybody other than those who already live in the neighborhood. Imagine my surprise and delight when the development turned into a much-needed rental project, and one with some below-market rental housing. While this is a welcome change, it would be better if there was more than one floor set aside for low-income residents. I've already heard some councillors discuss this. But my main reason for speaking this evening is to address the community amenities proposed with the project, and specifically around the streetscaping and public art. For the past 2 years, a number of community residents and organizations, including myself, have sought to bring annual LGBTQ2+ Pride events to Renfrew Collingwood. Collingwood Neighborhood House, Collingwood BIA, Collingwood Community Policing Center, our local MP and MLA, along with many others, have been involved. In 2019, we hosted our first events, including an LGBTQ2+ seniors lunch at Collingwood Neighborhood House and a family-friendly movie hosted by the Collingwood Community Policing Center at Collingwood Park. With COVID-19, though, 2020 events regrettably had to be canceled. One of the projects we've been discussing is to incorporate some sort of pride-oriented streetscaping at the intersection of Joyce Street and Van Ness Avenue. This could be a rainbow crosswalk, but that's certainly not the only option. We identified the Joyce Collingwood SkyTrain station as a prime location since it's one of Vancouver's gateways, the first station on the original Expo line when you enter the city. Given the integrated streetscaping included in the 5055 Joyce Street development proposal, which are mentioned in the landscape plans posted to the city website, this seemed like the right opportunity to make a request. Accessing budget for something like a rainbow sidewalk or similar public art can be challenging at the best of times. With the COVID-19 impacts on the city budget, it could be years before another funding opportunity like this comes along. So we're really hoping that councillors will use this opportunity to direct staff and the developer to include a mandate to implement our idea. The LGBTQ2+ community no longer lives exclusively in the urban core. While neighborhoods like the West End and Commercial Drive will continue to play an important role for this community, people like myself have chosen to live throughout Vancouver. You, City Council, can make a significant statement by recognizing this, by using this opportunity to look beyond the logistical needs of the Joyce-Van Ness intersection, by actioning streetscaping that recognizes the diversity that exists within this historic neighborhood. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your comments this evening and your work in the community. There are no questions for you this evening, but again, appreciate you participating this evening. And Council, we're moving on, I think, to our last registered speaker, which is Joe Luza.
Hi, Mayor and Council. I'd just like to voice my support for this project. It's been 35 years since that SkyTrain station opened. I think it's about time we have more development around our SkyTrain stations. I was lucky enough to sit on the Norquay Community Council back in 2006 through to 2010. Seemed like an eternity ago. 10 years since that, we've seen 2 projects developed in Norquay, which is right next door to the Joyce area. We still see Joyce, 29th Avenue, and Nanaimo Station completely undeveloped. Yet we look over at Coquitlam, which just had their Evergreen line opened, and we see developments everywhere. There's more housing being built in the suburbs than there is inside Vancouver where it's needed the most. So I think it's just about time the city gets on board with building more density around these SkyTrain stations. So I'm all in support of this one.
Thank you so much for calling in. I don't see any questions for you. Appreciate your participation this evening. Thanks. Clerks, I don't see anybody else on the list, so I'm going to call now first time. If anybody else would like to speak to this, 1-833-353-8610, code 34986 hashtag to get on the list. And I'll check with you clerks. Is there anybody else on the line or in the council chambers?
The clerk here, Mayor Stewart, no one on the line and no one in the chamber.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm going to make my second call then, 1-833-353-8610, 34986 hashtag, and that information's all on the live stream and on Twitter. And I will check with you, clerk, before I make the third call if anybody has, I'm sure nobody's coming to the chambers, but if anybody phoned in.
The answer is the same. No one in the chamber, no one on the line.
Okay, Council, I am going to call the last time, third time for speakers. The number and the code is on the live stream and on Twitter. And it's 8:07. I think they have lots of sevens. Going to come back at 8:12 just to see if anybody else has called in. Then we'll move to closing comments, debate, and decision. So thanks, Council. Stretch your legs, and we're back at 8:12. Thanks. see if there's anybody else on the line or in the chambers.
Mayor Stewart, it is the clerk here. There is no one in the chamber. Just checking, and no one on the line.
Thanks. Great. Thanks so much. So seeing there's no additional speakers, the speakers list is now closed. And we're also going to close the public comments because no comments were received after 5 p.m. today. And I'm going to ask the applicant, does the applicant have any closing comments?
No, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Council have any, staff have any closing comments?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. Council, questions for staff? Councillor DeGenova, I see you on the list for questions.
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. My first question for staff, so I'm just looking at my scribbled notes here, is to the question I had asked earlier, and then hearing from some of the speakers also about the affordability and looking at sort of the overall affordability, also looking at why, this was something that the applicant chose to do, and hearing from the applicant, is this something that and I apologize if I'm putting staff on the spot, is this going to be the first project of its kind in having these type of units in this type of format that would have vacancy control and be integrated into a market rental building?
Thanks for the question. I'm not sure. I'm going to defer to my colleague Annie Mobiles from Housing.
Thanks, Kent. It's Annie Mobiles here, Senior Housing Planner. If I'm understanding the question, this project, although it is not part of the MERP pilot, is similar to that. It's 100% secured market rental building that we secure through a housing agreement for 60 years life of the building. And through that housing agreement, in this instance, we will secure the 10 units at those below market rates for the life of that housing agreement for the affordability that's outlined in the report. So even though it's not part of the MERP pilot per se, it's very similar in structure and how we secure that through the housing agreement. If that answers your question, I hope.
It does. It's also about vacancy control and not having it. I understand that MERP is to make a MERP work, the land economics and the pro forma have to come together in a certain way. I'm wondering, in looking at this almost like as a hybrid of a MERP and having vacancy control, is it the first type of relatively newer project we'd see in the city of Vancouver in this structure?
Thank you, Annie Mobiles here, Senior Housing Planner. It's a good question. I'm fairly new to the city and participating in public hearings. It is certainly one of the first few outside the MERP pilot. And, you use the word hybrid. We talk about it that way as well. In this instance, because it moved from strata to an all rental scheme, really the percentage of below market units was determined through that pro forma CAC analysis that Teresa O'Donnell spoke about earlier. So in that way, it's unique, but we secure it in the same way that we would in a MERP project with in this case, smaller number of units, but secured through the housing agreement for the life of the building.
Okay, thanks very much. And then just another question, and I don't want to put Ms. O'Donnell on the spot, but if you're up for the question, is this kind of one to watch if this is something fairly new? You had mentioned that, it was a bit of, the applicant did this. This was something new that was being tried. There was maybe some hesitation and concern, but it did fit within the policy council had passed and signaled for a direction towards. Do you think that sort of moving forward and passing this would in fact inspire more vacancy controlled units?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. It's really a great question. And as a matter of fact, the rezoning group and the housing group have been in active discussions with a number of developers that are considering moving from a strata tenure to rental. So we're very excited about that and trying to figure out, the financials to make these deals work. And so I think this does signal a lot of progress to the development community. Yes.
Great. Thanks so much. And Mr. Mayor, I think there's others on the list for questions, so I'll just put myself on the bottom of the queue. Happy to move the recommendations as they are.
Sure. And thanks for that, Councilor Jason-Nova. Of course, I just do the, I call for the motion to be moved. I don't usually go by the list.
I didn't know if I had to be on the queue for that one.
Nope. Councilor Dominato, up to 5 minutes.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And a question to staff. You would have heard one of the last speakers to this proposal was talking about potential efforts around a rainbow sidewalk or crosswalk and opportunities to do that in the context of this development and the art contribution. And I'm just wondering, do you need a formal direction from council around to look at or explore something like that with the community, or is that something that, based on what you heard this evening and from the speaker, that you would take away and would engage deliberately with the 2S LGBTQ community?
Thank you, Councilor Dominato. Yes, I believe we understand your intent, and I believe the applicant also understands the intent. We could maybe make a recommendation on an additional condition, if that would be helpful, something along the lines that the staff and applicant will look for opportunities to celebrate the LGBTQ pride in the design of the public realm on or near the site. Something to that effect might be helpful.
Okay, I could probably take a stab at that, trying to put something together with your help. That's all I had for questions, so happy to put that together.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. My question really is around the public benefit that's being gained through the market rental, not necessarily the below market rental, but the market rental housing. And I noticed that I guess it's page 16 of the report where it talks about public benefits and the CAC contribution, and it just says that the contribution is the secured market rental and below market rental, but there's no value attached. And at times in some reports that have come to public hearing, we've actually seen a value for the CACs that have been waived. And in other reports, such as this one, and it's not in the public benefit summary at the end of the report either, there's no value attached. I'm wondering why there's a difference in reporting on the CAC waiver, and if you have a sense that you can provide to council of what the CAC might have been for this project that has been waived in order to achieve the 100% market, secured market rental and 10 below market rental units.
You are correct, Councillor Carr. Michael Naylor and I were just discussing this, and you're right. In other case reports, we do provide that. In hindsight, it certainly would have been helpful for us to include that. That is information that's given to us by our real estate department, and I'm sorry that I don't have that information available tonight. As we've discussed, this is a little bit of a hybrid, and I can assure you that in projects going forward, we will be sure and include that number, though.
Yeah, thank you. That would be very helpful, given that that's what we're weighing as councillors in terms of public benefits and trade-offs. So thank you. I would appreciate that in the future. That's the only question I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thanks very much. Councillor Kirby-Young, up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on the question around public art as council's rep to the Public Art Committee, and I wonder if I can ask a question of staff and Ms. O'Donnell in terms of typically how the public art process works. It's my understanding that usually each proponent will be informed by the social and historical and sort of cultural aspects of the site, but they will bring proposals forward to the Public Art Committee, and that typically council doesn't direct in terms of specifically what type of art we'd like to see at a site, because we let the art process have some independence and unfold. Is that correct? I just want to get some clarity around that.
Yes, the public art process is part of the development permit process, where contribution can either be made in cash or they can go through the public art process itself at the development permit stage.
I'm not talking about the funding contribution. I'm talking about qualitatively council directing in terms of what we would like to see the art being. As opposed to the developer being informed of the site or the proponent bringing a proposal forward to the public art committee that has artists and other industry folks on it that provide their expertise and try to work within sort of some of the broader art goals that the city has, whether it's, you know, reflection of the diverse culture, peoples, et cetera. Ms. O'Donnell, maybe you could help.
Thank you, Councillor Kirby-Yung. We don't have anyone on the phone from ACCS tonight. I'm not sure the council can direct that, but we can certainly have those conversations with the ACCS staff as this moves through the development permit process.
My question is to clarify the rules so that we don't set a precedent in terms of council directing a specific theme for an art or something that we would like to see other than.
I see your question because, yes, I understand your question. And I think the previous question about looking for ways to celebrate the LGBT community there, we can certainly, that doesn't necessarily have to happen through the public art program. We can work with the developers to look for other opportunities on the site to do that too, if the public art committee decides a different direction should be taken.
Well, and not to say also the public art committee might not decide that, but typically they have, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that they have license as the art committee to sort of let, just like, you know, in theaters, to sort of let that creative artistic process unfold. Is that fair?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that because I don't want us to inadvertently set a precedent or impede on that creative process.
Yes, understood. We understand. We'll take that under advisement. We'll make sure that happens.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dejanova. You have 20 seconds left for questions.
Nope, that's it, Mr. Mayor. I would just want back on the motion to speak to the motion. I'm happy to move the motion.
Okay, thanks so much.
Move the staff recommendations. I'm sorry, that's what I should.
Great, and we have a seconder for that?
Second, Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Okay, Councillor Dejanova, I'm going to put you on the main queue, and you have up to 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd really like to, I'll thank the applicant, but also really want to thank our staff. It's not easy. I had referred to unicorns. That's my way of saying it's difficult sometimes with a pro forma to make it work, especially when it over many, many years, there's timelines that, you have to anticipate delays. That being said, I'm excited to see us move forward with something that I was kind of cautious about at first. And I have had some hesitation recently on the affordability of units. And sometimes, more units that are less affordable aren't always better. It's like slow and steady wins the race here. So, kudos to the planning and development team and to Ms. O'Donnell, you and your staff for making this work, and to all of our staff from ACCS to DBL moving forward in engineering. But looking at this, this may be 10 units, and I've heard a lot of my fellow council members talk about 10 units, but that's 10 units that'll be more affordable. That's 10 units that are more affordable, and I'm thinking about 60 years down, like the answer to the question. And as I said, and I'm going to use the same frame of reference that I did when I mentioned why I wasn't supporting 601 601. I shouldn't note addresses, but when I recently did not support a development, and right now I'm instead looking at the affordability that we will see. And it's not just about the missing middle, and it's not just about the millennials. And I'd noted, for me, it's also looking at, now there's the new name and phrase coined for the alpha generation, which is the children of millennials, and looking at over 60 years how this affordability will really truly translate, across generations. And I think, slow and steady wins the race. So if we're looking at 10 units, and that's how we can make this work, along with affordable rental, because market rental is hard to come by. And we've heard that time and time again. I've heard that, sitting around the council table for several years now. So I really want to commend our staff for trying to think outside the box. And I just want to remind, my fellow council members that we ask them to. We often say, okay, this is within the policy, but this is within the policy. However, there's a hybrid here. And, I'm really excited to see that. I think it's really brave, and I want to thank the applicant for moving forward with that. At the same time, I think that, we have to decide as a council, if we're going to ask people to do something differently, then we have to, be ready for that change. And sometimes that's trying something new. So we're going to automatically see 10 affordable units, which is more difficult to do on the east side than the west side when we look at rental performas, as we did recently with a MERP project that we spent several hours on. So for that reason, I do support this. And I think, when we talk about the missing middle, it's not only about the missing middle, it's about the generations that will come after them and the 10 families that may be able to stay in Vancouver and more because of this project. So thank you very much, and I wholeheartedly support this.
Councillor Carr.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I am supporting this, and I'm supporting it for a number of reasons. I was on council when the Joyce Collingwood Station Precinct Plan was passed. There was a lot of public enthusiasm for that plan. Lots of people who came to talk about their hopes and dreams for a new, really emerging neighborhood around the Joyce Collingwood SkyTrain station. And it's not happened as quickly, I think, as some people have wanted. So I'm appreciative of the developments when they do happen. And rental was mentioned a lot by the public, affordable rental as key. And I'm not exactly sure that this is going to be affordable if it's market rent, but I do think that rental was primary on the minds of many people who were supporting the planned development. So I'm happy to see that staff worked with the applicant in order to move it from a strata building into a rental unit building. 10 units at affordable rates. I know that doesn't, and Councillor Swanson has said this, that's not very many. That's 10 units more than I saw for my first 7 years on council, when DCL waivers and CAC waivers were done for just pure market rental all the time. And we have moved, thank goodness, as a city and council towards reaching for more and more affordability in the rental projects as a whole. So that is a very good move forward. And we need more of it. And I very much appreciate Ms. O'Donnell's honesty in response to my question around the CACs that she had talked with Mr. Naylor about. Maybe that they should have been there. And yes, please, in the future, it would be so much more helpful to council to actually have transparently, which is good for the public as well, what that CAC waiver was, because that helps us understand the choices that we make as council in terms of public benefit. So I do look forward to that commitment to actually include the CAC waivers in future reports. But given that information isn't there, I still had to make a decision. I think it's better to move forward than have seen a project that came in as a strata unit. So that's why I'm supporting. Mr. Mayor, you may be muted.
Thanks very much. Councillor Swanson, you're next at 5 minutes.
Yeah. So zoning is a very important power. In some ways, it might be the most important power that cities have. It's the power to make a decision that can double, triple, quadruple, quintuple the value of a piece of property. And we should use that power very judiciously in order to benefit the citizens who live here. So in this case, we have a piece of property that's zoned with 3 FSR, which I'm thinking means they could build to 5 or 6 stories. And we're saying, no, tonight we're going to give you a gift. And we're going to say, instead of collecting rent from 6 or 7 stories, you can collect rent from 35 stories, which means you can get a lot more money. And so if we're going to do that, we should try and get something back for the citizens of the city. And what this proposal would do is say, well, what we'll get back is 10 units. We'll allow the developer to basically have 1 floor of this building where he doesn't make a profit, and he'll be able to make a profit on the other 34 floors. Some people say, well, at least he's contributing DCLs. Well, the DCLs are for essential things that will benefit the owner of this building. They're for engineering. They're for amenities that will attract tenants. The rents on these in these apartments are going to be market rents. They're going to be whatever the market will bear. They're going to be high, especially on the top, because it's 35 stories and they'll have views. So I'm just thinking, you know, we shouldn't grant density unless we extract for the people of this city a lot of affordability. And to me, this is a giveaway. So I'm going to have to vote against it. That's it.
Councillor Weeb.
Yeah, I really appreciate staff working with the proponent to move the alley over so that we could have a more appropriate pathway along the BC Parkway and the greenway that goes on the south side of the building. I really appreciate the vertical forest and the outdoor living room concepts that are introduced in this building. Hopefully, if we can reduce parking, we might be able to increase the affordability. For me, I also agree that we do need to find affordability, but I think there's some really key elements of green building design that are really innovative in this building. I think the architectural components are pretty amazing, so I will be supportive of this building.
Thank you. We're on to Councillor Dominato. Might have your mute on, Councillor Dominato. Oh, looks like we've might have some trouble with her internet. I see a little yellow symbol there. Because this is a public hearing, Council, we're going to have to pause until Councillor Dominato comes back on. So
it is the clerk here, Mayor Stewart. I can ask IT to make contact with Councillor Dominato.
Oh, there she is. Councillor Dominato, you're back on.
She's back? Okay.
We had lost you there.
Yeah, sorry, I lost my Wi-Fi for a minute. Yeah, so just really briefly, I circulated an amendment just based on the feedback from the speaker, and it really resonated with me about opportunities within the city. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about inclusion and diversity, particularly even with the Vancouver plan today. But it's come up recently too in the context of some of the hate expression towards the 2S LGBTQ community, and that community is not just residing in a couple of different neighborhoods in the city. And so if there was an opportunity for staff and the applicant to explore some way to have some honoring, recognition, or celebration of the community, that would be welcomed. And so I just took the language that staff proposed, obviously open to amendments around that for clarity or, but just.
Second, Councillor DiGenova.
So that's it.
Okay, I actually just have to check to make sure we have, because this is a quasi-judicial hearing, I'll just have to check to make sure that the language is in order, Councillor Dominato. So I'll just do that and come back to council just quickly. Thanks very much. I'll be right back to you, council. I've frozen your clock, Councillor Dominato. it's potentially legally problematic. So what I'd like to do is there's, I think, legal sending a note to Councillor Dominato, or the clerk is, and what I'd like to do is just proceed on to Councillor Hardwick, and then put Councillor Dominato back on the queue to. However, this has been seconded now, so clerk, I guess I'm going to have to ask for Councillor Dominato to withdraw this, and we'd have to approve it and then to retable something. Okay, do we have a seconder? Do we have a seconder for the withdrawal?
Second, Councillor DiGenova.
Thanks. All in favor of supporting the withdrawal of this amendment, say yay.
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 Opposed, say nay. Great. Okay, thanks very much. And Councillor Domino, you have about 4 minutes left. On to Councillor Hardwick. Councillor Hardwick? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I'm with Jean on this one, Councillor Swanson. Looking at the numbers here does not compute for the benefit that's accruing to the developer. And to Councillor Carr's point regarding the value of the CACs that have not been obtained on this transaction, I would like to see these going forward in other applications. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dominato. You've got the floor again. Oh, you're on pause or mute.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm just reviewing the clerk's email.
Okay.
Around appropriate language to amend.
Okay. And you're kind of freezing up
Bear
there.
with me. Okay. Sorry, I'm just going to have to take a minute to revise it.
Okay. You're the last speaker on the list, but Councillor Dominato, I actually have a few things to say, which I will do that while I've got you put you back on the list. I just want to thank staff for excellent work here. I mean, imagine moving from a strata building to a rental building, secured market rental building with 10 secured units through negotiation rather than a strict policy. It's, I think, a great accomplishment. I also want to thank the applicant for really breaking new ground here and you know, reading the will of council. We have a lot of discussion on this council about you know, how do we break from the past? How do we show that we're different than past councils? And I really think this is a very good example of how we're showing our difference, is that we're giving clear direction to staff and to the building community, and we're starting to see now new forms of building and financing models that are really important. So just wanted to say thanks to everybody. I'll be supporting this, and that's it for me. I'll move over to Councillor Dominato. Are you ready to go, Councillor Dominato? You're on mute again.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Mayor. I'm just working on the amendment because, so just bear with me.
All right, we've got Councillor Kirby-Yung, Councillor DiGenova, up to 5 minutes.
Oh, no, I was on to speak to the amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Kirby-Yung, 5 minutes.
I can wait. I was going to speak to the project overall. It doesn't sound like we're finished yet.
Well, we're kind of there, but Councillor Dominato, I mean, it is a quasi-judicial hearing here, so I can't just. So if Councillor Kirby-Yung doesn't have anything to say, if Councillor.
Parliamentary procedure, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Sorry,
Councillor DiGenova.
Mr. Mayor, I was actually just trying to answer your question and say that yes, I can provide some general comments, and I can do that now instead of later if that's helpful.
Mr. Mayor, I was.
A point of what did you have? A point of procedure, Councillor DiGenova?
I did, but now that I'm first on the queue, I'd just like to move for a 2-minute recess.
But Mr. Mayor, I was on the queue and I was answering your question and I hadn't finished.
Yes, and I'm not going to grant a recess to have folks write motions. I don't think that's proper process, so I'm going to move to Councillor Kirby-Yung for her 5 minutes. Go ahead, Councillor Kirby-Yung.
Thank you. Yeah, I will be supporting this project this evening, and for a number of specific reasons. One, because it is rental housing, and that has been a priority for this council, and one that I have personally been strongly supportive of. And regardless of changes in the market and the pandemic, we do know that we have had a pent-up demand and a shortage of rental housing, and that more than half of our households are renters, and that is continuing to grow simply because of affordability issues. I do think that in terms of projects, this one is unique in the sense that it is the first rental project that I can recall in this term that has delivered the DCLs. And one of the concerns that I have had, as we have, at the same time had the benefit of bringing more rental housing on stream with the approval of a number of projects, is that as we don't see the public contributions, but we are adding people into neighborhoods that we don't have the same financial ability to provide the community amenities that are so important to livability. And to me, livability is a really critical factor as people do live in smaller spaces, and we do have an increasing population over time, that we have the ability to contribute towards parks and green space and community centers and libraries and all of those other things that add to daily lives and that are core for cities to deliver. And so we do need those revenues to do that. And so for this reason, while it's not every project is perfect, but we do seem to be making progressive improvement as we move forward. It's not as many affordable units that are guaranteed with a covenant as we've seen in the MERT projects, but those MERT projects also do not include the DCL waiver. So I think we have to balance that aspect in terms of looking at that. I do think that the focus on balconies is an important one. That's something that has been particularly always important for me, I think, in terms of people having access to outdoor space, but again, highlighted by the pandemic and the need for people working at home more and the need to have access to fresh air. So I think that that's a unique element of design. But for the reason that I have stated, and I look forward to continuing to analyze which of these policy levers we can continue to refine so that we can deliver the mix of the type of housing as well as a revenue stream for amenities. Because if we keep going and delivering rental housing, we're going to be severely taxed, as I said, in terms of the ability to deliver those amenities. So for those reasons, I am happy to support this project. And I appreciate the opponent switching and making the transition from full strata to rental, which we do need. Thank you.
Councillor Dominato.
So an updated amendment based on law's feedback. I think it should be in order now.
Second.
I'm not going to explain it again because I think it's self-explanatory.
Okay.
From what everybody's shared.
Thanks. I've got a seconder, so I'll put us on, Councillor Deschanel, I'll put us on the amendment queue. If anybody would like to speak to this one, please put yourself on the queue. I don't see anybody on the queue, so I can call a vote on the amendment.
Point of privilege. Could we see that on screen? I'm not seeing it on screen, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
And it hasn't popped into my inbox yet, so I'm not able to see the language.
Yeah, clerks are just doing that now. I'm looking at the orange cone, and I think it's up on screen on council chambers, clerks, but not.
I have a visual of the council chambers itself, but I can't see.
Yeah, that's what I have too.
Oh, that's what you have.
Switch the view and perhaps we can see it up on screen. Clerks, we're watching you switch the screens. There we go. Thanks so much, Councillor Kirby-Yung. There you go.
Thank you.
Great. So call the vote, and we'll, clerks, if you could trigger the vote mechanism. Still not up, clerks. Clerks, I just need to trigger the voting mechanism on the, we're voting on the amendment. There we go. Thanks very much. Councillor Wiebe. Thank you. Okay, thanks, Council. That's the clerks can put it up on screen. That's passed unanimously. Thank you so much, Councillor Dejanova. Oh, I had you on to speak the amendment, but that's over now.
Yeah, I think that's over. I didn't know if Councillor Dominato had anything more to say. I'm just going to close on the motion.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead, please, Councillor Dejanova. Then up to 5 minutes.
Okay, it's Councillor Dominato. I heard her audio going out, and she's trying to. Yeah. No,
okay.
You can take me off the queue, Mr.
Go ahead,
Mayor. It's fine.
Take you off the queue. Okay, great. So we haven't got anybody else on the queue to speak, so I can call a vote.
Mr. Mayor, I think Councillor Dominato was having some technical difficulties. I should have called a point of procedure, and just to let you know.
Dejanova, did you want to speak to this?
You know what?
It's not, Councillor Dejanova, you have the floor for up to 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, first of all, if I could start with a point of parliamentary procedure.
You can.
Okay, Councillor Dominato, I think, is having trouble with her audio.
She just said it's fine.
Okay, could you check with her again?
No. Go ahead. Up to 5
Okay,
minutes.
as long as she's able to vote, that's all I
Your clock is rolling.
Sure. Thank you. We'd wait for her to vote. I just wanted to, in closing off and considering some of the thoughts that other councillors had and moving the motion as is customary to close on that, I also just want to really, again, not only want to thank staff, but say that I think that this is courageous. I also want to thank the applicant for trying something different. It's not easy, especially to move forward with that and choose to do it in new times, in a new public hearing format with a brand new type of policy that brings together many policies, as we see in the report. And I also just want to, remind all of us around the table and those who came to speak to us that CACs, there's very clear guidelines and regulations around CACs, but they're voluntary contributions that we should be thankful for. And I think that also needs to be said. When we talk about, and everyone is free to make their own choices, but when I look at strata units versus rental, I think building rental not only helps us with our affordability and to meet our goals and our targets, which I'm looking at very closely for affordable housing in our city. And that's why when we do see, condos and strata, I'm not saying that there isn't a place for them in our city, but it's concerning to me that we don't really sometimes celebrate the benefit. Yes, we talk about waivers, but what are those waivers for? It's for building affordable housing. So really, I don't know that we should call it a waiver as much as we should maybe call it a credit. I also just wanted to note that, making this transit oriented, as, others had said before, and really wanted to thank the speakers who took the time, late in the day or in the evening to come out to speak to this, because transit oriented development is important, and to find rental and to find affordable rental is difficult, but even market rental. So I wanted to end on that, and I also wanted to say, Mr. Mayor, that there has been many discussions and long nights here around the council table, some of them just on rental housing, aside from public hearing. And this council has said we want to be bold, we want to try new things. Well, this is an opportunity to try something different, to try a hybrid, to try something that our staff have said that they've worked tirelessly on, to try and bring together. And here we have rental, ticks the box of transit, also, a vacancy control, and in looking forward to, some of the climate goals that it meets as well. So for that reason, instead of talking about this and for the reason of wanting to build more housing, I hope that we can all come together to support this and encourage others to maybe move forward with more vacancy-controlled units too in what they'd like to bring forward in their applications to the City of Vancouver. Thank you.
Thanks. And that's it for speakers, so we'll call a vote on this one. Councillor Dejanova, just need your vote. Thanks so much. If the clerks can put that on the screen, this has passed with Councillor Hardwick and Councillor Swanson in opposition. And I'll just have the clerks put that up on screen. So, Council, that does it for us this evening.
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah, sorry, I just don't quite see the results on screen. Clerk?
I saw them come up.
They were there a minute ago.
Oh, okay, great. I missed it. Okay, thanks so much. And yeah, motion to adjourn. Thanks, Councillor Hardwick. Seconder?
Councillor Dejanova?
Thank you so much. And all in favor say yay.
Yay.
And opposed say nay. Great. Thanks so much, everybody, for all your work tonight. Staff, applicants, public, and thanks again, clerks, for all your work. And we'll see you tomorrow morning. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Night.
Night.
Good night.